And now WJCU University Heights takes a break from the Heights programming to bring you
Jewish Community Radio.
a weekly half hour every Friday. We bring you what's happening in the Jewish community, both locally and around the world. And today, we have a lot going on, but I want to continue on the theme that we did last week. We we actually ran out of time of. We were talking about last week about Chassidic Jews. We were defining them, who they are, what they're like. Really nice people, by the way. And we started going to Orthodox, the regular Orthodox, and we ran out of time. So, Elisheva, if we can, I want to start from there, or maybe restart from
Okay.
there. So, I was defining the Orthodox as nice people, average people. The men tend to wear white button-down dress shirts, black pants, black shoes, and for prayer they will wear a black hat. Sometimes they'll wear the black hat going home to the synagogue. But very, very nice people. You'll see that many of the men have long beards, and just nice people overall. And the women dress differently. Now, Shiva, I'll let you describe how the women dress.
Okay, thank you, Fred. So in Judaism, they talk about modesty, and some interpret modesty to mean wearing a uniform. With women, we are given a lot more flexibility, but at the same time, it's a little more stringent. So, for example, as women, we're told we have to cover certain body parts. Now, of course, the ones that can be covered by a bathing suit, but it also includes knees, elbows, shoulders, collarbones. Some even say wrists and ankles.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time when we're picking out clothing, we have to make sure it follows these guidelines. And so, for example, when I say collarbones, people are wondering what's so interesting about a collarbone. So the idea is, back in the Talmud, we didn't have rulers to measure. So we used the width of our hands, we used the length of our arm from the elbow to our wrist, just different measurements. So if you were to take your thumb and you were to place it on your collarbone and you were to extend your hand to the other side of your pinky, on me, I'm basically hitting what would be best described as cleavage.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to ensure that my cleavage isn't exposed, we kind of add an extra fence to include a collarbone. So if I'm
Aha.
wearing a regular collar t-shirt, I'm fine. Some v-necks, I'm okay. But there's some t-shirts where the v-neck is what we call plunging, and I might not be so okay after that.
And by the way, when it comes to men in modesty, I should say that I personally don't think that when the men are wearing white shirts and black pants everywhere, which basically makes a uniform, to me, when you're wearing the same thing, to me, that's not modesty. I like to dress like everybody else and not stand out at all. So everybody has their definition, and each group within Orthodoxy does their own thing. So there's really no one single rule that fits
Well,
everyone,
but I actually can see on the other side where it is modesty when you say
which is
uniform. When you say
okay,
uniform.
okay,
So, a number of years ago, I worked at a school where all the students had to wear a uniform. The uniform was essentially a white collared shirt and khaki bottoms, whether it was a skirt or trousers.
was that a Jewish school or a
No, no,
non-Jewish
this
school?
was this was this was a charter school,
Mm-hmm.
and about 3 days a week, the staff to help model the dress code. We likewise wore similar outfits.
Mm-hmm.
And so, well, I will tell you though, with wearing a uniform now, personally, when I left that school, I had a bonfire to burn the khakis. I was that excited, and
That's funny.
to this day, I still will not wear khaki pants, khaki bottoms. That's how bitter I am about it.
You must have had a hard
So
time at that school.
I left that school about 6 years ago, and I still cannot bring myself to buy anything khaki.
You know what's kind of funny
So
about that is that there are a lot of Jews who will. Okay, let's face it. Okay, in any religion, every religion, there's always somebody who's going to become the rebel and do their own thing. So there's a lot of Jews who will, on principle, after being part of a one group or another, rebel against it and decide to do something on their own. And there's nothing wrong with that in Judaism. We're allowed to pick our own path. We're allowed to pick our own rabbi.
But where I was going with this is the upside of the uniform was that it made my fashion choices for work less complicated. Do I wear this pair of khaki pants or this pair of khaki pants?
And let me guess, you go for the clean one.
Right.
Okay.
So 3 days a week, my fashion choices were quite limited because 1 day a week, as a female, I had to model the skirt.
What's funny about that is that in the Orthodox men, they will have, for example, they will all wear a white shirt every day, but they'll have a really nice white shirt for Shabbat, for the Sabbath.
Right.
So, but they'll still be wearing white. It'll just be a nicer white shirt for the Sabbath.
And then the one that has a little schmutz on it, you can wear it on a Tuesday.
Exactly.
But, so anyway, the point is though, when you have a uniform, like my daughter just got a job recently, and she has to wear the same colored shirt every day, and just different choices on the pants. They just can't be jeans. But the idea behind it is once you have a uniform, it removes the complication of clothing and of fashion. For example, there are a couple famous millionaires out there, and a lot of talk has been made about wearing the same gray hoodie or the same gray t-shirt every day, or the same black turtleneck, or even about different presidents and wearing either a dark gray or a light gray suit and maybe spicing it up with a navy suit.
Wait a minute. Don't we also have the same thing when it comes to people who are copying their music idols wearing the same kind of shirt and the same kind of pants every day?
Sort of, but I mean, the way I look at it is this. If you remove fashion, as it's like one less decision you have to make. There's been research on this. And so if you take the worrying about your clothing out of the equation, then that's more energy that you can spend on something more productive. So like, I mean, I could actually see an argument pro wearing a uniform.
Interesting idea.
No, but I mean, I can also see at the same time, the downside of wearing a uniform is then you become associated with that group. Good and bad.
Yeah. I can see that.
So still, there's a pro and a con to it.
Yeah, but still, okay, so in the Orthodoxy, a lot of people, like I said, will wear the same color, white shirt, always a white shirt and black pants. That's the easy way to spot an Orthodox Jewish man. However, I've seen a lot of men walking around like that who look over his shoulder. Oh, no, that's not Jewish.
Powder blue. Actually, I've spotted some rebels. The powder blue dress shirt.
Ooh, I've done that.
That's scandalous.
That's absolutely scandalous. Another interesting thing that men do is we wear the kippah, the little hat on our head. And a lot of times now you can tell more about a person by the kippah they're wearing. For example, if it's a black velvet one, Azar, they are Haredi. They're the more... Well, Haredi means God-fearing. So they're more the black hat... black hats are mostly worn Shabbat, or let's say they're coming home from the synagogue and they have nowhere to put it, so they put it on their head. So, but in general, then there's people like me. I wear what's called kippah sruga. It's a hand-knitted one. And it's more, I don't know, a little stylish, a little different, has more
multicolored.
Color. Exactly. And so there are people... The funny one is that this is the one which makes anybody who's Orthodox kind of laugh, because there's this certain style of this satin yarmulke, kippah, which goes to the head, and it's really badly shaped for the head.
I call it the rent-a-kippah.
Exactly. And they come either single layer or two layer, and you can tell because, number one, it doesn't sit on the head very well. So you know the person's not really Orthodox, because Orthodox Jews tend to have ones that fit properly. They don't. Basically, is that you're not a cone head, but with these satin ones, you're a cone head.
Well, there's two you haven't covered.
Which are?
Okay, the suede kippah.
Oh, suede, yeah, the leather one. That's more of like a modern kind of cool. I'm cool.
Well, what does the crocheted kippah mean?
Well, here,
the multicolored one.
They don't mean anything. It's style. It's whatever you want to do. Okay, in front of me right now are three, okay? Actually, four, excuse me. On my desk, I have my Cleveland Indians one, CLE, blue with white and red letters. I have one which is a black one with white, kind of like a boxy kind of thing. I have one with a blue one with different color pattern around the bottom, and the cool one I have. This is one that, if you see this one, it's me. There's nobody else in the city who has this one. This is a custom-made watermelon kippah. Looks like someone took a half a watermelon, sliced it in half, and also you can see the seeds, you can see the rind. If you see somebody with this one, it's probably me.
I've actually seen that on other people besides
Really?
you. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And then also a lot of little boys, they will have a kippah that will have their name embroidered on it in Hebrew.
Absolutely.
And it has tripped up a lot of boys when I can call them by their name.
How'd you know? Well, yeah, it was funny. But also, by the way, I have the Indians one I mentioned. I have a Browns version. I have a Cavs version. And I'm thinking of buying some more along those lines. So,
well,
yeah.
So a number of years ago, I actually read this whole article on a blog that's no longer operating, but somebody did like a whole study on the different type of kippot that men wear.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I did after reading that article was I bought my husband a black crocheted kippah.
Wow.
And that is the kippah he has worn the longest. It is his favorite kippah. He never quite got into the suede ones. He has, he's like you. He has very curly hair, and he doesn't like bobby pins, which most men, when they have the suede kippah, it's hard to keep on their head, so they might have a bobby pin. Mm-hmm. But I bought my husband this, and it's not like it's not. You see, the thing with a lot of the crocheted kippot is they almost look like coasters. So to keep it on properly, you have to put the bobby pin on. Yes. I've seen some boys wear it in such an awkward place on their head that it's not technically on the top of their head anymore. But the reason why I bought this one for my husband was because the article talked about you could tell the outlook, the philosophical outlook of a man based on the type of head covering he was wearing.
It's very true. Way more than the clothing.
So,
but by the way, on that note, by the way, I should say, I sometimes throw off the norm. Oh, by the way, the sound you heard before, possibly, I opened a diet cola type beverage. Anyhow, the point I was going to say is that sometimes I'll wear a baseball cap. And a lot of Jews will wear a different hat when they want to be more low key. But you always spot that they're Orthodox because a lot of the times they're wearing a white shirt, black pants, and like a British kind of like racing sports car cap. And yeah.
So my husband's kippah, we decided to get one that you can't tell what his philosophical outlook is because it's black.
What'd you get him?
I said it's a black crocheted kippah, and it's large enough that it can sit on the head without bobby pins. So it's about the size of a velvet one, but it's crocheted and it's black.
Oh, by the way, I have one more here, by the way, which is crocheted and really, really large to basically go over the sides of the head. And it says Nana Nachman, which is a big Chassidic rabbi.
Breslov.
The Breslovs. So I have a Breslov Chassidic knitted yarmulke. So just so you know, we sometimes break our own rules.
But the Breslovs, by the way, are a lot of fun.
They're cool. Now, I think I mentioned last week, they will, in Israel, be driving around. They hit a red light. They're blasting their music, and they stop, get out of the car, dance while the lights are red, and as soon as it starts about to turn green, they get back in the car and drive off. And not a drop of time is wasted in blocking traffic.
But also that being said, you see, women, we actually also have our own set of head coverings. Mm-hmm. Usually, but it's not, the girls are not obligated to cover their head until marriage. And from there, we have a whole assortment of head coverings. We have scarves, we have bandanas, we have different types of wigs. We could get a full size wig with bangs. We can get a wig called a fall.
Wait. The bangs are fake?
Yeah. Well, it all depends. You see, some of the wigs. Now, there's also a wig called a fall, which basically has combs, and then to cover the to cover the part between your real hair. You use like a headband to kind of cover the difference. I actually stopped wearing anything on my head a long time ago when I started working in the public schools because um, I I had people thinking I was sick.
Oh.
And, because I was wearing scarves a lot, so somebody thought I was ill, God forbid. And so I actually stopped covering my hair over it. And then, to be honest, once I was more comfortable not covering my hair, I just kind of stopped altogether, except when I go to the synagogue. And that's also another component. A married woman who's not covering her head could still also be Orthodox,
Yes.
or wearing pants could still be Orthodox. We're just where but again, I don't like the word Orthodox. I prefer the word observant. I'm observant with kashrut, with keeping kosher. I'm observant with the laws of Shabbat. I'm observant with the laws that I am obligated to be observant with. And in my mind, I'm like you. I kind of want to look like everyone else, but still maintain a degree of modesty.
And by the way, with that, a lot of the wigs from women wear are natural hair, and they look better than their own hair.
Yes.
And that also causes a problem. So right now, there's a group of Hasidim in parts of New York where they'll wear a wig and they'll wear a small hat on top of the wig
Yes.
because no one should think that that wig is actually their actual hair.
It's under the principle of Marit Ayin, which is the appearance of. We're trying to avoid the appearance of something. Now, when I wore wigs, I could never afford the price tag of a real natural wig. So I went to the local wig store. I paid for an inexpensive artificial wig, wore it until it wore out, and then replaced it. And most of my wigs they were very straight. My real hair is kind of wavy and curly.
So I guess what
So,
we're trying to say is, really importantly here, is that the rules change between different groups, and we're going to look different. And there's really no one way to follow. You have to really know who's who and what's what to figure out who's who by the quote unquote uniform.
right.
So it's very difficult at times, and we even get confused. I can tell you, I see a guy walking down the street. So I'm coming up, I'm driving, I see a guy walking with a white shirt and black pants. I turn over, look over. Nah, he's not Jewish.
Yeah,
And
and also if you see two young men walking around in ties and short sleeve shirts, they're probably not Jewish. They're probably
yeah,
missionaries.
exactly. Because we will tend to wear a shirt without a tie.
Unless it's Shabbat and we're going to shul because we want to dress up. Not me. I don't wear ties, but
Exactly. But we get the point. We get the point. But it's just kind of funny how the various groups are and work and how we fit in. It's really, really kind of hard to figure out sometimes
but
who is who.
really the thing is though that's really important to understand is we prefer to not be judged by what we do. So by likewise our way of teaching this to everyone else is we don't judge you for what you're doing. I know plenty of Jewish people who don't follow the dress code or don't follow kashrut or don't follow Shabbat, and I don't judge them for this. I'm not mad at them. I don't think they're bad people. I don't think they're sinning. I don't think they're going to the bad place when they pass away, God forbid. But likewise, I would wish for the same respect back to me. I'm not judging you for the path that you are taking.
You know, we should probably talk about that bad place another show because that is a whole different topic by itself. Because the Jewish outlook for this is very different than the Christian outlook.
And that is a whole show. That's why I like
That,
that TV show that was on a long time ago. That's why I made the reference.
yeah, that could be like 5 shows actually, but we won't do that. We're not gonna,
Well,
you
that
know.
could be like a shattering theological differences that are unique in Judaism,
Yeah,
and that we can definitely stick to that another time. But the reason why Fred and I personally do not like the term Orthodox is because it has a Greek root. It suggests things like conforming to what is generally or traditionally accepted as right or true, established and approved.
you know, I'll tell you something.
I decided to go to the dictionary for it.
I kind of got that impression, but Okay. Elisheva and I tend to be more okay. We're very different philosophically, but we also tend to have, like most Jews, we have our own bend philosophically. We have our own concepts. We have our own vision, and that's normal. I mentioned earlier something, a concept in Judaism called Aseh Lecha Rav, which means establish for yourself a rabbi. I have my rabbi, you have your rabbi. We'll do things differently, but we're going to get along just fine.
And your rabbi might be a little stricter on some things than my rabbi,
Yeah,
and vice versa. We
exactly.
actually do not actively encourage people to do what I like to call opinion shop.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's why you can't have five rabbis. You have one rabbi, and you follow your one
You
rabbi.
call that rabbi, you get. And this was a lot easier back in the old country. And in the old country, until about 200 years ago, there really wasn't this concept of Orthodox versus. Everyone was Jewish. We all lived in this, like whoever lived in the shtetl, in the village, we all had the one or two synagogues. We all basically followed the same rabbi. There might have been a couple people on the fringes, but we all got along, and maybe you left that village and you went to a different village and you learned different interpretations of things, but we didn't have this concept of orthodox. This came about a little over 200 years ago, when the reform movement started. And again, the history of the reform movement is at least two shows, but the point is that what Reform Judaism was looking to do was normalize a lot of Jewish practices to be less quote unquote strange or odd to to their Gentile neighbors.
And even Orthodoxy had the same concept where you had a Rabbi Cook who's very famous who believed in Orthodox plus. You can be Orthodox and get a job in the secular world. You can be Orthodox and do this.
Rabbi Raphael Shimshon Hirsch,
Mm-hmm.
the father. Well, he's considered the father of modern
Actually,
Orthodoxy,
you're right. Sorry, it wasn't Cook. It was Hirsch who was an Orthodox plus. You're right.
and
I
he
stand
was
corrected.
Torah Uder Eretz. The slogan on on Yeshiva University is Torah Umada, which means the Torah law and knowledge. You need to have both. You need to have a good understanding of the secular world in order to function. But don't forget about where Torah plays a role in your life.
And we have different groups that have different beliefs, and it doesn't stop me, who I'm more modern Orthodox, from getting along with a local rabbi who I'll just sum up as this way: AJ. I disagree with him on a lot of stuff, but we're still friends.
I've
And
gotten into some very fun conversations with rabbis over the years.
so have I. But you know what? We get along with each other no matter what. We do we disagree? Sure. But I'll dance with the rabbi I disagree with at a wedding. No problem. Because what it comes down to it, in Judaism, we respect each other's beliefs and our differences. And it's it's part of a Aseh Lecha Rav. Establish for yourself a rabbi. I have my rabbi, you have your rabbi, and we get along just fine.
Two Jews, three opinions.
Well, that's an interesting thing I thought I would mention also, because that comes from something different. I have my opinion, you have your opinion. The third opinion is really what we come to a mutual understanding or agreement upon. We do compromise. We do have mutual understandings. So that's where that comes from, the third opinion. And we try to work with each other. We really do. And it really does make a wonderful symbiotic relationship across the board. However, there are some times where you have differences between Orthodox versus Reform, and that can be what's a good way to describe it? Tense, not tense. It could be not confrontational. It can be, I would say, weird. Trying to come
Polarizing.
with polarizing. Thank you. Well, but you have to. But we still come to an agreement. Listen, one of my favorite rabbis in Cleveland is everyone who probably know who I'm talking about, Rabbi Matt, Brilliant rabbi. Absolutely brilliant. I'm more Orthodox. He's more Reform. Or he's Reformed. And I will we'll see each other on Friday. Shabbat Shalom, which we meet each other with. And absolutely one of the most brilliant rabbis and great conversationalist. Conservative. There's Rabbi Danker. Wonderful, wonderful, brilliant
He's also
man.
Reformed, but yeah.
I thought he's conservative.
No, Rabbi Denker is at Temple Emmanuel.
You're right, Reform. I apologize. Either way, the point always is that we can be in different, I guess, across the aisle, maybe for a political concept, but in Judaism, we still get along. We get along nicely.
We pray to the same God.
Exactly.
We say the same prayers. Some might be said more English. Some might be said more in Hebrew. At a Reformed synagogue, men and women can sit together. At an Orthodox synagogue, that's not going to happen. But the idea is we pray to the same God. We worship the same way. We celebrate the same holidays.
And also we celebrate with joy. One
yes.
of the very, very important concepts in Judaism is to celebrate our holidays with happiness. We should be happy. Marben b'simcha. We should enjoy the holidays. We should enjoy Shabbat. Rabbi Matt on Friday is always uplifting in his point of view and in happiness. When I see him many times at a store before Shabbat, and that is something that ties us all together. So
we were going to talk about this. I'm going to sum this up in 2 minutes.
Okay.
So while we're talking about what unites us as Jews, there's, of course, always going to be these other groups. And one of the things that we do agree upon as Jews is that we have 2 Torahs. And this is actually in the Mishnah. We have the Torah that is written and the Torah that is spoken. So the Torah that is written is what we call the 5 books of Moses. The Torah that is spoken, actually, ironically, is now written down. And that's what's in the rabbinic law. However, there are a group of Jews that, for whatever reason, made a decision to not agree with the spoken law. And they're called Karaites. Karaite, it comes from the root likro, to read. In their mind, they are following the Torah literally. And there's some interesting conflicts because even within there, because the Torah was not meant to ever be followed literally. I had a conversation with a Christian this week where they were asking me different questions about what does the Torah say about, and I kept giving them interpretations, and I said, but the Torah was meant to be interpreted. And so there's this group, they're called Karaites, and their interpretations have made for some very interesting Jewish practices. One of them actually includes, it says in the Torah about do not light a fire on Shabbat. So a lot of times they will sit in cold, dark houses and eat cold food. That doesn't sound very joyful to me.
So what they do is that they take the oral law and they say, well, the oral law doesn't apply. Then they create their own oral law to fill in because, for example, the Torah says to wear tefillin on the head. And unless you have a definition of what tefillin are, you won't know what it is.
It actually doesn't even say to wear tefillin. It says you shall bind it, the words.
Yes. But
on your arm and between your eyes. It doesn't actually say tefillin.
Okay, we're getting a little technical there. But still, the point is that they will, because they don't have the definition that comes from oral law, they will sometimes make up their own definitions, is my point. Okay, listen, we have Elisheva, we got a minute to go. I just want to say that, so the Karaites will basically make up their own interpretation, which is, in a sense, is their own oral law. But I digress. The main thing is that we believe in getting along together across the board. We are... What am I doing? I am actually calling somebody on my phone.
You called me on Messenger.
I'm out of my pocket. Okay, my pocket dialing 101. Don't do it. Okay, that said, it's Friday, October 15th, and tonight, candlelighting is no later than 6:27 p.m., and Shabbat ends no later than 7:25 p.m. It's getting early. And with that, maybe we'll continue on this topic a little more last week, or next week, I should say. But either way, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And we'll be back next week right here on
Jewish Community Radio.